In the future, humans have engaged in fierce wars with extraterrestrial beings known as the usurpers. Afterward, humans colonized the inner solar system and coexisted with humanoid robots called Neens. Although they possess thoughts and emotions similar to humans, Neens are viewed merely as cheap tools by people. They do the dirty and tiring work that humans don't want to do, and their brains are implanted with a code chip named Asimov, rendering them unable to rebel or harm humans, just as humans need to eat. Neens require injections of a liquid called nectar to sustain life. Neens will perish without timely nectar injections, and their bodies are disposed of like trash. After a day's work, the humanoid robot Jones discovers his allocated nectar is missing. His girlfriend considers giving her nectar to Jones. Yet this decision is not as simple as sharing a cup of coffee between lovers, but a choice between life and death. In the end, Jones left the chance of survival to his girlfriend. Unbeknownst to Jones, his nectar was actually stolen by his human colleague Dyke, as injecting nectar induces a pleasurable sensation in humans. However, when Dyke flaunts the nectar, Jones's girlfriend happens to witness it. Upon receiving this information, Jones wanted to seize this last chance of survival, finding Dyke to beg for the return of his rightful nectar. Yet Dyke remains unmoved by his desperate pleas, merely watching as Jones passes away. Eventually, Jones's body is loaded onto a garbage truck. This scene happened to be witnessed by Rouge, who is also a Neen. However, her job is to hunt down Neens. It turns out there are 9 Neens known as the Immortal 9, who for some reason are not subject to control by the codes in their brains. They not only can resist humans, but have even established a resistance organization called Alter, aiming to overthrow human rule. The government could not tolerate the existence of the Alter organization, so they dispatched Rouge and her partner Naomi to hunt down the Immortal 9. Since the Immortal 9 look no different from humans, identifying them amidst the crowd was the first task in hunting them. One rainy night, Rouge deliberately sat pitifully on a garbage bin. This scene was coincidentally witnessed by the popular singer Sarah, who took pity on Rouge and hired her as an assistant, keeping her close. Unbeknownst to Sarah, Rouge's real purpose was to determine if Sarah was one of the Immortal 9, but during their time together, Sarah took good care of her. She has also become fond of Sarah. When Naomi inquired about the progress of Sarah's investigation, Rouge lied, claiming Sarah was human, but Naomi had already captured a picture of Sarah injecting nectar, confirming her as Purgatory Viola, one of the Immortal 9. In reality, Sarah did want to leave the Alter organization. She only desired a normal human life, singing for those who loved her. The Alter organization promised her that if she provided one more piece of information, she could permanently leave and live the life she wanted. However, Feto, also one of the Immortal 9, claimed that there was a traitor by Sarah's side, which resulted in the nectar from the intelligence she provided being stolen by a red mecha. Coincidentally, just now, Sarah was also attacked by a red mecha. After Feto's reminder, Sarah immediately thought of the girl she had just taken in, Rouge. Despite her desire for a normal life, Rouge now posed a threat to her, whether for self-preservation or to protect her current singer identity. Sarah knew she had to eliminate Rouge, so Sarah found Rouge and took her to a deserted place, where Rouge directly stated that Sarah was Purgatory Viola. At this moment, a red mecha suddenly appeared, seizing Rouge by the neck and throwing her from a tall building. It then dawned on Sarah that Feto could disguise himself by altering his appearance. The red mecha was Feto in disguise, meaning Rouge had not betrayed her. It was all part of Feto's plan. Alter organization had never intended to let Sarah go. Everything they did was to goad Sarah into killing Rouge, because the intelligence they received indicated Rouge was the red mecha sent by the government to hunt down the Immortal 9. In that moment, a blaze of red light illuminated the scene as Rouge transformed into a red mecha and charged towards them. Witnessing this, Feto immediately chose to retreat, wanting Sarah to eliminate Rouge, knowing that regardless of the outcome, Alter organization would benefit. Sarah then transformed into a mecha warrior and engaged in combat with Rouge. Her weapon was whip-like, continuously striking at Rouge. Though Rouge could evade her attacks, Naomi instructed her to endure the damage to analyze Sarah's weapon's principles. But Sarah's attacks grew fiercer. She was furious. She didn't understand the difference between Neens and humans. She just wanted to sing for people. At this moment, Naomi successfully acquired the data. Rouge also began to counterattack. With one swift stroke, she severed one of Sarah's arms. However, Sarah's most powerful attack was fire. Rouge's mecha was almost dissolved under the continuous assault of flames. Yet, she seized the opportunity at the last moment to turn the tables and emerge victorious. After defeating Sarah, Rouge and Naomi started searching for their next target. The next day, Rouge and Naomi boarded a bus, ready to hunt down the next member of the Immortal Nine. However, just as Rouge was eating chocolate, a little girl drooled with desire. Naomi wanted her to give the chocolate to the girl, but in the next moment, Rouge swallowed the entire piece of chocolate. In her view, she was also a little girl. Just at that moment, several armored vehicles arrived. It's a group of mercenaries targeting Rouge. The mercenaries then issued a message. If the person in the bus handed over Rouge, they would be unharmed. Upon seeing this situation, some immediately wanted to hand over Rouge, while others objected. At this point, an elderly woman spoke up, informing them that the mercenaries intercepting the bus halfway was illegal. They wouldn't spare anyone present to destroy evidence. So when the mercenaries got on the bus to search them, Rouge immediately came out and started fighting. The elderly woman took over the driver's seat and drove away swiftly. In her youth, the old lady was a race car driver. She drove the bus at full speed, and the armored vehicles couldn't catch up with her for a while. They started firing at the bus continuously, hoping to force her to stop. The old lady drove the bus into the forest, successfully shaking off the pursuing armored vehicles. However, the bus's electrical system suffered severe damage and needed replacement parts to continue. Naomi knew deep in the forest there was an abandoned military base with various car parts. So, she decided to go there with the driver to search for them. Rouge wanted to go with them, but Naomi asked her to stay behind to protect everyone. As the bus was immobilized, the passengers began to move freely. Rouge and a little girl discovered a scrapped large piece of metal, which was a war machine of the alien usurper known as the Cylinder Head. Usurper nearly won the war with these cylinder heads. After all these years, these Kylinder heads have gone dormant, but the little girl, out of curiosity, activated them by touching a switch. The mission of the Cylinder Head is to fight. Anything that moves will become their target for attack. Seeing this, the group had no choice but to flee immediately. Just then, the mercenaries who had been chasing them caught up to their location. The Cylinder Heads immediately targeted the mercenaries as their new adversaries. The mercenaries' armored vehicles were cutting-edge technology, but they paled in comparison to the war machines like the Cylinder Heads. In no time, the mercenaries' armored vehicle team was completely wiped out. However, with no more targets, the Cylinder Heads locked onto the bus. Rouge had no choice but to transform into a mecha to battle the Cylinder Heads. However, the power difference between the two sides was vast, rendering Rouge's attacks ineffective. The old lady's excellent driving skills kept dodging the attacks of the Cylinder Head. With Naomi's guidance, Rouge found the weakness of the Cylinder Heads. After experiencing life and death together, the passengers on the bus became friends. Rouge took the initiative to give chocolate to the little girl. Witnessing this scene, Naomi was also very pleased. She remarked that Rouge had grown up. Naomi's words triggered memories in Rouge. At that time, she was injected with a mysterious liquid every day, because without it, she would die. She was curious why her brother Jean and father didn't need to inject that liquid to stay healthy. Whenever she asked Jean, he would silence her with a piece of chocolate. In reality, Rouge didn't know that she was an artificial human created by her father. Jean was merely her father's assistant. One day, Jean suddenly showed her a video, revealing that their father had been killed by the 9 artificial humans he had created, later known as the Immortal 9. Jean told her that as the daughter, she should avenge their father. Thus, Rouge embarked on the path of revenge. Her first target was the singer Sarah. However, after killing her, Rouge realized that Sarah wasn't evil. She just wanted to sing for people. Her second target was a Futuru, although he was also one of the Immortal 9, but he is a responsible doctor. His only wish was to treat Nines, who was suffering from illness. After killing a Futuru, doubts arose in Rouge's heart. Was what she was doing right? That day, she sought out her brother Jean and voiced her concerns. Jean insisted that it was their father's wish, and as his daughter, she should fulfill it without question. However, on that day, a strange person named Puppet Master found Rouge. He claimed that Rouge was a pitiful puppet being controlled by others. Puppet Master vowed to cut the strings controlling Rouge and grant her freedom. This revelation left Rouge in turmoil, even questioning Jean. Unbeknownst to her, Puppet Master had already used Rouge's data to successfully replicate another Rouge. Meanwhile, Feto of the Immortal 9 was continuously committing crimes. He enjoyed assuming the appearance of others and then killing them. Each time he committed such a murder, he felt inexplicably excited. This time, he took on the likeness of a man named John and publicly committed murder. However, when the real John was apprehended, he was bewildered, because he had been gambling in a casino all along. After reviewing the surveillance footage, John found it unbelievable, because he had been at the casino the whole time and had never left. Consequently, Sheriff Asher retrieved the casino's surveillance footage, which confirmed that John had indeed never left. The case thus reached a deadlock. On the other side, as Rouge and Naomi stepped out of the elevator, Naomi was immediately handcuffed. Just like John, the surveillance footage also showed Naomi committing murder. Naomi felt unjustly accused. She had been swimming with Rouge the whole time, and had neither the opportunity nor the motive to commit the crime. Moreover, she lip-read the murderer on the surveillance footage saying, "Find me quickly," which was clearly a brazen provocation. After Naomi was taken away, feigning a need to use the restroom, she controlled a small bird to find Rouge and informed her that the murderer was Feto, one of the Immortal 9. As in this world, only he had the ability to mimic others at will. Naomi warned Rouge not to act recklessly, but Rouge refused to heed Naomi's advice. She decided to find Feto herself. On the other side, Sheriff Ashu also discovered some clues. Although the murderer could change his appearance, but he can't change his weight. So once he knows the murderer's weight, he can find him. However, he had become the next target for assassination. At that moment, Feto disguised himself as one of Ash's colleagues to get close to him. Even though Asher realized that the colleague was an imposter, he was still stabbed by the assailant. Just then, Rouge and Naomi arrived in time. Feto transformed directly into Rouge's appearance. Upon seeing this, Rouge charged forward. Meanwhile, Naomi, noticing Ash's injury, stayed behind to attend to his wound. In gratitude, Asha unlocked her handcuffs and lent her a gun to assist Rouge. However, when Naomi reached the scene, she saw two identical Rouges locked in combat. Unable to discern the real one, she immediately presented a complex math problem for them to solve. One of the Rouges promptly answered, inadvertently revealing herself as the fake Rouge. It turned out that with Rouge's intelligence, she wouldn't be able to solve such a complex math question. So whoever answered was the imposter. Soon, Asha discovered that Feto weighed 82 kilograms. They gathered all individuals in the building who matched this weight. The way to find out Feto from this group of people is also very simple, because a normal person can't take a punch from Rouge. Therefore, all Rouge had to do was punch each person. At this point, there was one last person left, but this man didn't look like he weighed 80 kilograms. It turned out that the man's dog weighed 82 kilograms. Rouge immediately kicked the dog. Sure enough, Feto was disguised as a dog. Once the target was identified, Rouge prepared for battle by transforming, but Feto's weapon was very strange, always appearing in unexpected places. To deal a fatal blow to Rouge, Feto admitted that he had taken on Rouge's appearance and killed her father. Feto told Rouge the truth in order to enrage her and distract her. However, the enraged Rouge instead saw a surge in her combat prowess. She directly broke Feto's two legs, despite clearly defeating her opponent. Upon her return, she was inexplicably apprehended. At this moment, several human executives were discussing the dissection of Rouge. Like the Immortal 9, she was a rare prototype Neen. They were not only immune to the Asimov code in their minds, but could also transform into mecha form. The executives planned to dissect Rouge to obtain valuable data. However, Rouge was on the brink of death as she had not injected nectar for a long time. The individual monitoring Rouge also noticed this development, but just as he was preparing to report to the higher-ups, all surveillance feeds suddenly lost signal. A white-haired woman appeared and swiftly dealt with them, saving Rouge. After being injected with nectar, Rouge slowly regained consciousness. She knew it was the white-haired woman who had rescued her. The woman's name is Jiru, who is also a member of the Immortal 9. Jiru aimed to recruit Rouge into their faction as she, like the Immortal 9, was a prototype Neen. Jiru hoped to liberate all Neen from the Asimov code. However, Rouge did not agree with this notion, because she understood that the Asimov code could not be removed from a Neen's body. Just then, an alarm blared. Someone had noticed Rouge's escape and triggered the alarm. Jiru immediately started to run away with her, with another Neen assisting them. Jiru directly charged and killed two security guards. Afterwards, He apologized to the Neen who had come to their rescue. The Asimov Code not only limits Neen from rebelling against humans, but even if they witness humans being killed and fail to intervene, they will be executed on the spot by the Asimov Code. But this Neen had no regrets. He was ready to die for the freedom of all Neens. At that moment, a group of mecha soldiers appeared and fought with Jiru. Jiru transformed into mecha form to retaliate. However, to Rouge's anger, the mecha soldiers also sought to kill her. Thankfully, another member of the Immortal Nine, Makiyasu, suddenly appeared and rescued her. Makiyasu, with a dual personality, desired to befriend Rouge, and urged her to stop hunting them. They simply sought to live freely, allowing all Neen to break free from human control.